Okay, so God is an economist. Now, from the previous video, if as much energy has to be used and God has to be a capitalist, so God is a capitalist because he has to use as much energy as possible in the universe. God also has to be an economist because in order to use as much energy as possible, as efficiently as possible, in order to create as many things as efficiently as possible, God has to be an economist through or by division of labor and its consequent specialization, or vice versa. Now, so for example, males and females, they are somewhat opposite and they have traits that make them good at different things that end up complementing each other. So, for example, males tend to be bigger and stronger, faster also, and this makes males more adapted for chasing down animals. So, hunting. Females, on the other hand, may lack those traits relatively, but instead are capable of remembering details much more clearly and a keen sense of locating things. Hence, gatherers need to remember where the fruits and vegetables are, and the honey, for example, and also probably why women generally tend to like flowers, because where there are flowers, a few months later there'll be fruits. So if you sort of go back to the thing you liking flowers means that you'd be around those flowers, and after that there'll be fruits. So sense of gathering, and so and they end up trading with each other. Males and females trade with each other with what they bring to the table, and they also help with children, and they trade each other for the children. So about 10,000 years ago is roughly when agriculture began, and the time before that, stretching back at least 200,000 years, we were hunters and gatherers. Nomads that often roamed the land, hunting animals and gathering fruits, and moving to new pastures where no more fruits and animals were there. So you move to new pastures. We used to be in tribes, and the magic number for such tribes is Dunbar's number of 150. Though not restrictive, it is an average number indicating the average maximum limit for cognitive abilities required to track individual traits and preferences in complex social relationships. So the tribe size would be about 150. You can see that in normal in the modern day as well. So a study of 20 tribal societies showed a mean clan group size of 153. A 2008 survey of over 18,000 brides revealed an average wedding guest total of 148. The current hunter-gatherer tribe of the Hutterite tribe gets into tribe sizes of 160. A 2011 study on 1.7 million Twitter users found that they maintain stable relationships with 100 to 200 people. Average number of Facebook friends is between 150 to 200. So that Dunbar's number of 150 is generally the social number of social relationships that you can handle or maintain. So now imagine we are still hunter-gatherers in tribes about 150. In the same way, division of labor in males and females form to get more work done. Different personalities probably emerged in order to do different kinds of work. It's almost as though during the lifetime of the individual in the tribe, due to all the pressures externally, they form certain personality traits in order to adapt, and this gets passed down if they survive. So in that tribe of 150, you would assume that these personality traits within that tribe emerged because of different external pressures and things like that. So it's like how in the animal kingdom, within a certain geographical area called a niche, many different kinds of birds, for example, exist. Like how there are eagles that are majestic and arrogant, hunting from the sky and targeting big prey. But within the same landscape, there may also be pigeons that are stupid, but also not very picky, and so can eat a wide variety of seeds and stuff. So within the bird species, there are almost different personalities. So in the same way, hyenas are cunning and lions are brave. And these personalities allow them to coexist in the same habitat because they could compete and cooperate and all kinds of things. But They have to have different personalities in order to do that. So like that, in a tribe, different personalities or traits may have emerged or been adapted to and passed down generations. For example, people with ADHD are likely to be hunters because think about it, they are so fidgety and constantly switching their attention. Ooh, butterfly and all of those things. It's like their senses are always engaged to hear the slightest sounds. Maybe in the bushes there is a prey to catch or a predator to run away from, so they're always like, so that might be a trait that is passed down as an evolutionary advantage, and a personality trait that is specialized so that you can get work done. Now, but okay, so why would I say that these personality traits, there are multiple so like we would have, what have I written here? Why do I say this? And I think within an individual there are multiple personalities. Why do I say this? One, it's for balance. I'll come to that at the end of this. And if you think about it, we are never really one person all the time. With our parents, we are like this. With our teachers, we're something else. With different types of friends that we have, we have different types of people. Many different personality traits are needed to be stored inside in order to be diplomatic, and also when making friends. You are probably attracted to your friends because a part of who you are is a part of who they are. And maybe you have more of you and little of them, and they have a lot of them and a little bit of you. It's almost as though you come together to create some balance and to bring out the best in each other. A little corny, but people who are risk averse get the thrill of a friend who is risk taking, and the risk taker enjoys having a reason to take risks, having a friend that is risk averse. The quiet introvert hanging out with the talkative extrovert, balance and bringing out the most in each other. Like, these personality traits probably co-evolved in order to create groups that work together to do more things. Like, if, for example, if there is one aggressive chicken in a coop, one aggressive chicken and one passive chicken, the aggressive chicken will beat up the passive chicken and mate with whatever females that are there to produce more, or to pass down more of its genetics. So then there'll be more aggressive chickens. But if you put a group of aggressive chickens and a group of passive chickens, the aggressive chickens will end up beating each other up. So a group of aggressive chickens will beat each other up, but the group of passive ones, more introverted, passive ones, won't beat up each other. Instead, they will cooperate, and if they cooperate, they won't get stressed out, and then they can mate. So they are more capable of passing down their genetics in a group, whereas individual aggressive ones, if put together in a group of other aggressive, they'll end up beating each other. Nobody mates and pass down genetics. So different personality traits can be evolved like that. And I would say half the things are learned, but the general traits that you see, personality, are probably mostly genetic. Take love, for example. Love, though a lot of attraction happens because two people are very similar, like similar height, facial features, body fat, own race, all of this. But a lot of it also comes down to brain chemistry. Those with higher dopamine levels, who are people that are sensation seeking and independent, are more likely to be attracted to people that are similar to themselves. Those with higher serotonin levels, those that are more calm and controlled, and more likely to pick similar partners too. They are more likely to pick similar partners too. But men with high testosterone, those that are competitive and decisive, are more likely to be drawn to women with high estrogen levels. So opposites attract in this case. So a lot of it is almost as though there's a certain degree of balance, or some sort of relationship that is founded on genetics and personalities that emerge from such genetic traits. So the general idea of these examples is that people essentially complement one another, that personalities act as a division of labor and specialization, and trade means that more can be made from such interactions. Okay. A symbiotic relationship is formed, and hence the whole tribe is kept implicitly together. Now, if you were to look at our entire economy, from people who like science, like physicists and chemists and biologists, and the work that they do discovering how things work is used by engineers to make things work, and they are often directed by business people that see use for that invention in the market. Then there are economists that try to understand the whole system and to aid it, and there are politicians that know how to win votes and get things organized and get work done. There are artists that try to understand emotions and to try and depict and maintain social life through their ability and enjoyment of singing or dancing or theater or poetry or painting. So it's like the entire economy or society is filled with all sorts of people, and they all live in relative harmony, trading with each other, making friends, falling in love, and all sorts of other things. The circular nature of the economy, where money solves double coincidence of wants, exists, but the fact that these wants exist in the first place in such a circular manner suggests a delicate co-evolution of different personalities. The desire for people to share information, to research. Am I getting this right? Yeah, so the fact that our facial expressions, for example, and body language gives off so much information to each other, and that desire for people to share information, to research, to want to expand knowledge by expressing it to others, it feels less individualistic and feels more like we are a macroorganism, like ants. And no, I don't think it's by pure luck that this entire thing runs, the whole all the different things that go on in a fairly complementary manner. I believe God is an economist. I think God is an economist, and that there is an invisible hand that has written things in our genetics to divide our labor, specialize, and to trade in order to make as many things so that as much energy can be used to ensure God is the greatest capitalist of all time. Now, within the same tribe, within the tribe, on the larger scale, such division of labor and specialization can be seen. But what about within the person? In their biology, in cells, or in different personalities that they have within themselves. So within the tribe, you have different personalities, but what about within the person? What is going on there? So during the time of the origin of life, single-cell eukaryotes began working together in a symbiotic relationship where one cell did something in exchange for what another cell was doing, and thus aiding in the survival of both. The way they may have become so cooperative in this division of labor that they eventually became inseparable. More and more such symbiotic relationships started emerging and adapting and evolving till us. Now this idea of emergence is important. So this idea of emergence. The idea of emergence is this idea of how very simple rules and interactions can, over a long period of time, or if done by many different agents or many agents, not necessarily different, many agents can create very complex structures. Take ant colonies, for example. They have ventilation systems, they have physical places inside the ant hill that perform different functions And there are a lot of other things in anthills and colonies that are interesting. But the individual ant is rather simple and performs incredibly simple rules. But it being done by so many ants, these large complex adaptive patterns emerges. This whole bottom-up organization where interaction with nearest neighbors with simple rules created something so magnificent is a property of emergence, bottom up. So evolution is a property of emergence, and as such, so are we and our brains, which is why our brains are more like economies than machines. Like from the perspective of a ground up thing, it's like an economy. From the perspective of you looking down, it's more like a machine. So we're talking about emergence of everything, it's more like an economy. Because economies are also complex adaptive systems, that's why I would liken the brain and the body to an economy. The Nike store came up next to the Adidas store, which came up next to the Puma store, not because of some top command, but rather because each self-organized in such a manner that they individually decided it was best for increased footfall, for example. This bottom-up organization is called emergence. So the body and the brain would have emerged as cells split and took on specialized functions that worked with its nearest neighbor, but all of these end up contributing to the whole economy of the body and the brain. So each cell may have just been slightly different, but over time it compounds and becomes specialized, and they end up trading with one another. Now, this may seem too individualistic, but if any sodium and Cl chlorine atomic particles can combine or cooperate by sharing electrons, why not cells doing the same thing? So now take, for example, the neurons in the brain. There are clumps of neurons that perform specific functions like the visual cortex and auditory cortex and amygdala for emotional regulation, emotions. Each of these, for example, the whole functioning of the eyes are like one organization, with the neurons at the top being the managers, or it could be one entire industry with different levels of supply chain, each just as important as the other, except adding different and sometimes more value. There are hierarchies in this. The different brain regions would be different industries in the whole economy, and blood and capillaries are like the routes, or the roads, sorry. Some industries are more important than others. Some may be monopolies depending on the personality you have. Like if you imagine things vividly, your default mode network or imagination network would be bigger and you'll tend to be better at it. So monopolies, but you'll also tend to do it involuntarily more often. So this idea of monopoly or a very strong industry could be for the rational thinking or logical parts of human beings, perhaps the latest in evolution, the front part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex that determines decision making. Maybe during our period of evolution, it has been a little more active than that of our cousin monkeys, and this gave us a huge advantage in building tools, building relationship with others, making fire, etc. And that it kept getting encouraged because it works, so it passed down evolution, kept getting encouraged to become more and more dominant, and as it is very useful, and till such a point that now it enables us to so quickly, in less than 10,000 years, when natural selection would have taken million, we're capable of building so much around us due to this ability to think rationally and use logic and words. However, this is probably also the same reason for our suffering, that we are such habitual problem solvers or thinkers that it takes control of us and the entire economy of the body and the brain. Like after a heartbreak or losing someone or over a test or something stupid, thinking is what kills us the most, or at least me, like an overworked muscle. Each industry gets excited when it gets what it wants, like mouth and the food, lungs and air, but just like the rational part, other industries may also play politics to get more, Like when you see a pretty girl walk past, your heart or whatever brain region associated with affection and love says one thing, but your genitals say something else. They almost compete, but they also cooperate. They work in all sorts of manners in order to be beneficial to the whole organism or animal or human being, which then in turn is beneficial to it as an individual. All the different functions and industries are divisions of labor, specialization, and trade to be as efficient as possible. All the different parts are needed because evolution over a long period of time ensured you have all the right industries and organizations to wake up on time, to get food, to form relationships, to find mates, to take care of children, etc. And these were all properties of emergence, and so certain fixed structures exist, and hence you have certain predispositions or desires, like to mate, for example. This is also why prescription drugs have side effects, because what's good for one industry has impacts on the other because of certain, I guess, asymmetry of information and whatever side effects. And controlling your life too much, like using that front part of your head to control your life too much, also has unintended consequences, like government intervention or excessive government intervention on a normal economy. Now you could look at it in a completely different way, in a metaphorical way. You could see it as people having different characters inside themselves. We're not always the same person everywhere. We are parents, friends, we have, strangers. We are different this thing. You may even hang out with different kinds of friends. When you wake up, you're slightly different than when you're angry or upset or frustrated. And perhaps if you're more open to experience and agreeable, you would have more characters inside you. Inside you, there are different characters. Maybe a highly studious student at the front taking notes, or the intellect is this industrious, what did I write here? Angry. Or the intellect is this industrious, angry little boy, whilst the imagination is a hippie. There is a part of you that is in the shadow. This part of you that you have to keep inside because it will be disapproved of if other people saw it. Perhaps angry, violent, manipulative, scary, hysterical. You keep it inside until you have a monologue competition. And men act mental and aggressive, and women act crazy and hysterical. It's like they allow themselves to bring out these evil parts inside of them because, well, they say it's just acting, right? So and maybe it's also there to protect us because it's very powerful, which is also why it is kept hidden. There is an entire economy of characters inside you, like a chemist and a physicist and a biologist and an economist, all discussing things, cooperating and competing in our brains, trying to calculate things and strategize at every step of our lives, each doing it for their own self-interest, but ultimately benefiting all in this circular nature of the brain economy. And we delegate certain characters of who we are to people and around us, like friends. So certain parts of that personality, instead of having it just within yourself, you delegate. So if certain tendency is more in you, but you have another tendency that is also more in you, instead of switching between two, you delegate it to a friend. So a friend has that, maybe a friend is a funny guy or something, and you decide not to be funny, or or you decide to be serious, or something like that, some sort of relationship like that. There is also a certain sense of balance here. So in that, there's a certain sense of balance inside you. There is that horny or turkey character that wants to fuck, sex all the time. Then there is a complete opposite, maybe a conjoined twin that is a monk. Pleasure is bad, do meditation. There is also a fat fuck inside you with saliva dripping from his mouth saying food. And then there is the complete opposite, which is there's a hunk going, yes, muscles, eat salad, be healthy. There is a sense of balance in it. People who advocate for the free market tend to be very controlling of their own lives, and hippies who are presumably free on the inside tend to advocate for more government control. There is also a very childish side to men, like dad jokes, which balances out the more aggressive side. There are like opposite poles within yourself, pushing and pulling at each other to ensure balanced approach. And maybe this is the fundamental nature of the entire universe, like magnets of attraction and repulsion. Very simple rules. One simple rule of opposites kept on occurring. So just one simple rule of opposites kept on occurring, expanding further and further, and hence emergence created everything that you see around you from simple rules of two opposites. It's as though that simple division of labor split into more simple functions over and over, always splitting into opposites, and everything came about. So as these opposites occur in such minute things like electrons with negative charges and protons with positive charges, given the law of large numbers, perhaps convergence of all of these small details continue to show this idea of opposites existing, and in some sense there is balance in the universe. Though there is balance, that balance does not exist in order to maintain so that whole idea, so balance. But even though there is balance, that balance does not exist in order to remain still and stable, but rather in a manner to ensure that division of labor and specialization occurs to ensure as much energy is used up, and that the desire of the universe towards increasing entropy or from order to chaos is achieved as efficiently as possible. Yeah, so basically it's balanced, it's strung by things, but it's being pushed as well. So it's like stable, but it's being pushed. So balanced, but getting pushed by entropy. Therefore, we are cradled between order and chaos, push and pull, not to be in the middle, but rather to be both in heaven and hell, order and chaos, push and pull, stretched by two opposites. We are both. We are oxymorons, like thinking clown. Anyways, I don't know why you've watched this entire thing. If you have, thank you. That's it. Thinking clown.